krockfootball.com.au, VFL pre-season 2014 underway for the Geelong Cats, and a man who's looking to take that extra step in 2014 is their coach, Matty Knights, after the disappointment of Grand Final 2013. Knight, thanks for joining us on krockfootball.com.au. How much does it burn you still, that second last Sunday in September?
Yeah, well, I think the whole weekend, after achieving the ultimate premiership the year before and on being such a high, obviously the AFL preliminary final night was a big night against Hawthorn, and the Sunday versus Box Hill that, in neither game we were able to get a result, and obviously in the Sunday game being a grand final, it certainly does sting, and it certainly does give you the difference in emotions from one year to the next. But our players, preferably have learned from that and understand why it happened, and we go into this year with a lot of hope and a lot of belief, and thus far the pre-season's been okay. So it did sting, but you've got to move on, and you've got to really focus on this year coming.
AFL this change, VFL this change. The 22 or the 23 that you send out in round one against Bendigo next year won't slightly resemble possibly what you've had in the grand final.
Yeah, well, you look at the over the 2 or 3 year period with the premiership year, and then last year and this year coming, it could be, you could be looking at 10 to 12 to 14 different players running out round one against Bendigo. So in one way, that's a little bit hard to get your head around, because you're so used to Troy Selwood and Mark Corrigan and Andrew McLean and even Ryan Bathy running out. But in saying that, it's a fresh start for players and coaches, and also for the supporters. They get the chance to see 6 to 10 new faces, whether it be Jared Jansen or Zach Bates, or from our perspective, whether it's James Linton or someone like that, and also someone like Ben Raidme and Don Gleeson having different roles with leadership. So yeah, it's going to be a very different changing face of the Geelong VFL Cats, but in a lot of ways that's good for everyone. That's a fresh start.
How do you go about putting the squad together VFL-wise? Previously, obviously, you invited players. It was a trial sort of process. I believe it's a little bit different this time around.
Yeah, it's a little bit the same, but a touch different in a way that we're going to be really honest and upfront with players when they come down and train, whether they're going to make the list or not, rather than the players doing all of the pre-season. So what that means is the list or the training list becomes thinner a lot quicker. And we can have a real focus with, say, the 25 to 30 that are a really realistic chance of making that 21. And the reality is we've probably got 13 or 14 players that have committed to this stage, and we're committed to them to be on the list, and that's a really good thing, because they can focus on the year and the game style, and even teaching the younger guys that are here for the first time. So, it's slightly different, but in many ways it gives us a chance to work with the pointing of the squad as practice matches become closer.
Have you got a practice match schedule sort of in mind at the moment? Have you worked out your opposition yet?
Yeah, we've got 3 or 4 practice matches, looking through February, March. Obviously they won't start as early as the AFL practice matches, but we'll arrange obviously some other things in that part of the program. So it's really exciting. Most of our practice matches are going to be here in Geelong against variable opposition, and Benny's done a good job in putting that together. Leading into the early round. So, from an AFL and a VFL perspective, it's really exciting. The practice matches seem to arrive earlier each year, a week or 2 earlier, and that's a good thing, because in our sport, what you do a lot more than other sports is you tend to train a lot more. A lot of other sports around the world, and even Australia, they tend to play really all year round, whereas our players are really looking forward to playing, but have to train that another 2 or 3 weeks before it gets here. So I'm pleased that the practice matches and the NAB Cup are going to be here pretty soon.
Bendigo obviously to kick off, but the likes of Casey, Box Hill, North Ballarat in the first month. It's a nice little tester, and I suppose to get a crack at Box Hill early in the season isn't the worst thing in the world either.
Yeah, it's a changing face, Kingy. The VFL's competition's got a little bit of a spark about it at the moment. Richmond unveiled their list with a lot of high-profile players. The Western Bulldogs are a new team in it. Essendon were last year, and as you mentioned, those traditional clubs we've got in the first 4 or 5 weeks. So it's going to be a really different season. I'm not sure any of us know exactly what to expect. Who might be the top 4 or 6 teams? I reckon if you tried to pick a top 4 or 6 in the VFL at the moment, it might be pretty difficult, because there's 3 or 4 unknowns. Coburg goes standalone. Williamstown have done an enormous amount of recruiting from interstate, Western Australia and South Australia, and they're standalone. So yeah, the VFL's a changing face, but I think it's pretty positive, and it's getting getting some really good coverage at the moment.
Collingwood, Richmond and North Ballarat, off the top of my head here, the teams you play twice. So I reckon the AFL's, or the VFL rather, has had a bit of fun and gone, well, let's try and get these marquee matchups right. And, you wouldn't be disappointed to be playing Collingwood and Richmond twice.
No, certainly not. I mean, both are big crowd-drawing games, both are traditional clashes. And the great thing for our youth is they want to play in front of as big a crowd as possible, because when they get their chance at AFL level, they're going to be playing in front of 40, 50, 80,000 people. So it's a good experience for them, and as coaches you don't mind the blockbuster games as well against those traditional rivals. It always throws up some interest. So yeah, no, we're happy to play whoever and to play those teams twice as a bonus.
I think it's sometime in May, but are you excited about the club you spent so much time at, the best part of half your life at, going back and coaching at Punt Road?
Yeah, that'll be a bit eerie. I mean, I know a fair bit of that turf and the grass across that deck, and having spent 15 years at Punt Road itself and 15 years walking across to the MCG and walking across the car park. It was just an unbelievable place to play footy, and many great memories and experiences at Punt Road. So to go back there and coach, I'm not sure where they're actually located, the boxes, but they've done a huge redevelopment there, obviously, in the last 5 years at Richmond, and the club seems in a really good spot at the moment. So if they have a few of them games before MCG games, they might get 5, 6, 7,000 people to go and watch the VFL Tigers and then push on to watch the AFL Tigers. So let's hope we're in one of those draw card games.
And on a personal level, another season here at Geelong. Your role as you've progressed in your time here has stepped up further and further with the AFL. Will that increase again, or are you looking at similar to what you did in 2013?
Yeah, reasonably similar, although I'm doing a little bit more work with Shane O'Brien across the stoppages, but across the whole list. So, we mix and match. We might work with I might work with some of the senior boys for a week or two, and then Shane O'Brien might work with the younger academy boys, and then we flip it back over. So yeah, that link in with the AFL midfield is certainly there. With Mark Corrigan coming on board with the VFL to do a little bit more in the VFL, he'll pick up some of the obviously coaching elements of that, both during the week and match stages. So the role's pretty balanced. So similar role with the academy, coaching the VFL, but a little bit more work with Shane O'Brien with the AFL midfield. So certainly enjoying that part of it.
Fantastic. It's a long pre-season, but it'll roll around pretty quickly. Next thing you know, it'll be early April and we'll be into VFL season 2014. Always great to catch up with you on parafootball.com.au.
Thanks for your time.